I was just another face in the crowd, a college student focused on grades, social life, and trying to figure out who I was. It all started on a chilly autumn evening after a late class. The campus was nearly empty, with only the distant hum of traffic breaking the silence. As I walked toward my dorm, I noticed him for the first time, a man standing under a dim streetlight. He was tall, with a shadowy silhouette that blended into the night. But what caught my attention, what froze me in place, were his eyes. They glowed a deep, unsettling red. I blinked, thinking it was a trick of the light, but when I looked again, he was still there, staring right at me. I shook it off and hurried back to my dorm, convincing myself that I was just tired, that it was nothing. But over the next few days, I saw him again and again, always at a distance, always watching. No one else seemed to notice him, no matter how crowded the place was. It was like he was there just for me. The more I saw him, the more I started to unravel. My friends noticed I was distracted, jumpy, but how could I explain that I was being stalked by a man no one else could see? I tried to ignore him, but he kept getting closer, and the closer he got, the more I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. I stopped sleeping, afraid that if I closed my eyes, he'd be there when I woke up, or worse, that I'd never wake up at all. One night, desperate for answers, I turned to the internet. I found a thread about urban legends on campus, and one story stood out, the legend of the red-eyed stranger. According to the tale, he was a ghost who targeted students with unresolved guilt, feeding off their fear and driving them mad. The stories claimed that those who ignored their guilt, who let it fester, would be haunted by him until they either faced their demons or lost their minds. It couldn't be true, I thought. But as the days went on, I could feel my grip on reality slipping. The red-eyed stranger was everywhere now, in the corner of my eye, in the reflections of windows, even in the shadows of my own room. I knew I had to do something, or he would never leave me alone. I started to think about the guilt I'd buried deep inside, the thing I'd been trying to forget. It was a secret I'd kept for years, something I thought I could escape by leaving home for college. But the red-eyed stranger wouldn't let me run from it anymore. The memory surfaced, a car accident when I was in high school, a rainy night, and the sickening crunch of metal. I wasn't the one driving, but I was the one who convinced my friend to get behind the wheel, even though she'd been drinking. She didn't survive. I'd never told anyone the truth, not even her family. I tried to forget, to bury it under layers of denial, but the guilt had been festering inside me all these years. And now it had manifested into something terrifying. I knew what I had to do, but it wasn't easy. I went to her grave, something I hadn't done since the funeral, and I spoke the words I should have said years ago. I confessed my guilt, my role in her death, and asked for forgiveness. As I stood there, crying and shaking, I felt a strange sense of relief, like a weight lifting off my shoulders. That night I saw the red-eyed stranger one last time. He was standing at the edge of my bed, closer than ever before. But something was different. His eyes weren't glowing red anymore. They were just dark, empty holes. He stared at me for a long moment, then slowly turned and walked out of the room, disappearing into the shadows. I never saw him again after that night. The haunting stopped, but the guilt never fully went away. I'd like to think that facing the truth set me free, but I still feel it sometimes, lingering in the back of my mind. The red-eyed stranger may be gone, but the memory of what he represented will haunt me forever.